I've given up on destigmatisation, really. I mean, not that I don't want any other people to give up on it, but I just think that stigma transfers, that in a way, if you try and destigmatise things, you use different language or you try and make addiction respectable, that in a way there is a strong persistence of that stigma. And you have to find a kind of enclave that allows you to hide from it. I think that's really, when you go to, if you're in part of a recovery movement, you become proud of your recovery. But that's not at all the same thing as thinking that the whole of society is proud of you.
Yeah.
There will still remain, either a latent or obvious stigma to people with drug and alcohol problems. It's a sign of weakness. I mean, if you think about the chap who was the Lib Dem leader, Charles Kennedy, he disappeared overnight when it became out that he had some kind of alcohol problem. So it's still an enormously misunderstood and stigmatized thing.
Yeah, I do have
so we have to kind of go on.
I was going to say, I do have social work students that always ask me the question, as social work students, when should I talk to people about and they might even use past or stroke current drug use, because they see me talk about it as a almost retired, long in the tooth qualified social worker, and I go,
well, that's fine. We're safe, aren't we?
And I go to them, yeah, probably not until you're further down the track. Like, don't do it before your career's got started. Inverted commas, yes.
I think this is an extremely serious point, because again, when people get into NA and AA, they learn a culture of very unusual self-disclosure. People become very open and honest, start talking about their experiences without the kind of censorship that normally people apply. And I think people do have to be very careful, because it isn't particularly acceptable today to be a recovering alcoholic. People don't know what it means, and they probably think it. There was a chap called T.D. Crothers. Have you ever heard of him? He was a Victorian psychiatrist, and people were beginning in the 19th century to kind of form clinics and other helping services based on their own recovery experience, and some of them were doctors, And Crothers didn't think this was right at all, because he believed that basically alcoholics were deficient by inadequacy of the higher mentalities, so that they basically they were flawed people, and that they shouldn't be doing this stuff. I don't think I gave an exact quote there, but it was more or less that gist. And I think that's probably quite widely held, that if there was, if you've got a history of addiction, there's something wrong with you, and you're not altogether to be trusted.
And I think when I was thinking about these, the recovery movement stroke communities that go out there, the lived experience recovery organisations and stuff, I think they're beginning to do this stuff better than they were. So I think initially they were taking the massive collective the private self-disclosure of the meeting, and thinking they could just have mass public self-disclosure and they would be welcomed. And I think there's been a little bit of a retraction in which they still do all of that mutual self-disclosure in the meeting space, but a bit more of the public space they go in. They're just actually trying to just go about their business, and actually will only really say, oh, we're a bunch of recovering addicts if asked, rather than advertise it up front, if you know what I mean. Yes, I
think finding the balance is quite interesting, because of course you can always find an audience that kind of applauds and understands people who've gone through this adversity and kind of come out the other side, and you can see plenty of fora in which people will celebrate that. But in general society, that's actually a different thing. As a very good therapist friend of mine said, the world isn't full of therapists. Essentially, most people are extremely judgmental and quite hard on this. And if you're talking to politicians, they are by definition disingenuous. So if they appear to nod and say, "Gosh, jolly brave old chap, he's recovered from his addiction," they're not thinking that in the inside. They're thinking, this person's a bloody oik. We'll try and work out some way of ignoring what he's got to say.
Deficient in the states, as you said earlier.
Yeah, I mean it's but you can't stay silent. You've got to have some recognition that, because otherwise you don't reach people. I think the main reason why the idea of recovery needs to be widely known about is so that people can reach out and grab it.